it's such a sad state of affairs. And if I pull myself out of this for a second and like make comparisons to what's going on in the UK, what's going on in other European countries, what a lot of people don't understand is this is how fascism wins. Okay, this is how fascism wins. All right, smoking on that Alejandro Mayorkas pack. Alejandro Mayorkas, in a historic vote, has been impeached by the House Republicans. Let's take a look.
In fact, just last night, voted by a razor-thin margin to impeach DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for his handling of the border crisis. He's the first cabinet member to be impeached since 1876, but
I'm just going to say it. Democrats have been talking shit about how Republicans don't care about the border crisis and how they have nothing going on with respect to dealing with the border crisis, and how they threw aside the incredibly reactionary white nativist border bill that the Democrats have put forward. And guess what? Guess what, Sweaty? Turns out they do have something to do about the border crisis. What are they doing? Well, oh God, what the is this? This is the type of I see online that makes me go, maybe the Russian space nukes are not so bad after all. Wow, we are just accepting the framing of the border crisis. Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously joking. So they can impeach the DHS lead and pass the Ukraine funding bill without the border stuff. Why can't they pass a border only bill? I mean, don't ask that question because I really don't want that. Leaning into migrant votes, Suozzi paves electioneer path for Democrats. Tom Suozzi's victory in a special House election in New York buoyed Democrat spirits and offered a model in one of the party's thorniest challenges, immigration. This is an idiotic fucking assessment. Right off the jump. In the heart of Long Island, where Republicans have won every major election in the last 3 years, Tom Suozzi fought through ripping political headwinds to claim victory. What the fuck are we talking about? They literally elected a con man. Okay? They elected a con man. Hello? That's it. After that, it was over. They elected one of the most notorious con men of all time. This is not a good analysis. This is not, in my opinion, a good special election to look at to judge anything. That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh my God. Ay, ay, ay. We are watching consent be manufactured right in front of our goddamn eyes, okay? Straight up. Let me see if I can get fucking Edinger Mentum on here to talk to him quickly about this issue, actually. Let's see. Let's see if we can get him on. In a memo to Democrats, Senator Murphy urges them to follow the Suozzi playbook. Democrats should learn a lesson from New York 3. Quite simply, we risk losing the 2024 election if we don't seize the opportunity to go on the offense about the issue of border and turn the table on Republicans. This is a party that is completely unserious and simply wants to lose. You cannot outflank the Republican Party on right-wing issues. You cannot outflank the Republican Party on racism. All you are doing is that the false narrative surrounding immigration, all you're doing is conceding to the false narrative that immigration is a matter of national security and therefore legitimizing a major right-wing talking point. This is so fucking dumb. We are a nation of immigrants. The Democratic Party basically, like, the counter. Listen. The example I will give you is this. It's as though it's if the Democratic Party looked at the issue of abortion and was like, yeah, it is murder. Okay. And we are the ones who are actually going to make abortion illegal. You're never going to win that. Okay. You're never going to win that at all. It's so stupid. Oh my God. Why is everybody spamming Too Mad is Dead? Yes, dude. Yes. I know there's a shooting at the Chiefs parade, and I know that there's when Too Mad died. I know that. Okay. I'm not going to cover the fucking breaking news here. Anyway, let's continue with the House Republicans impeaching Mayorkas, and I'll talk about this a little bit further. I got to pee first, though.
Democrats say Republicans failed to present any clear evidence of wrongdoing. Nancy Cordes is at the White House following this for us. Nancy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tony. And, you know, we thought that the Democratic-led Senate would just ignore this move essentially by the House, but leaders in the Senate announced late last night they are going to go ahead with an impeachment trial later this month. And that is meant to highlight the fact that even some Senate Republicans did not think the facts justified this move by their House colleagues.
The yeas are 214 and the nays are 213. The resolution is adopted.
By the slimmest of margins, House Republicans voted to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas after narrowly failing last week.
Finally, we've held Alejandro Mayorkas accountable.
According to their articles of impeachment, the high crimes and misdemeanors include a willful and systemic refusal to comply with border law after a record 2.4 million migrants were apprehended at the southern border last fiscal year. In a statement after the vote, President Biden called Mayorkas an honorable public servant and warned history will not look kindly on House Republicans for their blatant act of unconstitutional partisanship.
Many of the shortcomings Republicans complain about are because they won't give him additional legislation to better secure the border.
At the White House Tuesday, Mr. Biden argued the House should be spending its time.
I'm losing my mind. This is the worst messaging of all time. It's the worst messaging of all time. I cannot believe it. They're literally leaning into this bill because Jim Crow Joe, Genocide Joe, decided that this is like a good bill to lean into. And this is a good way to message around that this is a good way to message around the issue of immigration. We are so goddamn cooked. We have an 800-year-old fossil utilizing the bully pulpit. Oh my God. Oh my God. Guys, as someone who's been in this game for a very long time, let me repeat this point, okay? I might be a dumbass, but I am 100% apparently smarter than these idiots that are running the show. You will never be able to outflank the Republicans on right-wing issues.
Passing an aid package for Ukraine and Israel that the Senate approved Monday morning.
You're going to stand with Ukraine, you're going to stand with Putin. We stand with America or with Trump.
And he leveled harsh criticism at his Republican opponent, Donald Trump.
I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
After Trump appeared to side with Russia this weekend over NATO allies.
Can you imagine a former president of the United States saying that? For God's sake, it's dumb, it's shameful, it's dangerous, it's un-American.
Back to Mayorkas now. There is virtually no chance he will be convicted by the Democrat-led Senate, so he will not lose his job. But this is something House Republicans had been promising their base they would do since their first days in the majority over a year ago. Nate.
Nancy, thank you.
House Speaker Mike Johnson delivered remarks about the border bill earlier today, doubling down on not taking it to a floor vote.
The Republican...
We're so bad. We're so bad. Dude, look, we're watching what's going on in Israel and the culture surrounding like the mistreatment of Palestinians as an ethnic cleansing is happening and the lack of humanity, like the dehumanization against said Palestinians as Israel continues its ethnic cleansing. That is the future that we are looking at with respect to our border. As climate change worsens, as you have more economic migrants that obviously have no opportunities, have no more agricultural output in their home nations, you're going to see more and more people try to escape. You are going to see more and more people try to come to the United States of America. And it very obviously looks like we have decided that we are not going to try and treat this in a humane way. Okay? We are going to try and treat this in a Nazi way. Just like Israel and its ethnic cleansing campaign in Palestine, our border policy is going to become increasingly more right-wing. That much seems like basically like a consistent situation. That's it. We are looking at this. We're looking at concentration camps, folks. They already kind of exist, but it's going to get worse.
led House will not be jammed or forced into passing a foreign aid bill that was opposed by most Republican senators and does nothing to secure our own border.
ABC's Jay O'Brien joins me now on Capitol Hill for more. Jay, what do you make of Johnson's comments? What chance does this foreign aid bill have of passing?
Well, barring some procedural moves, it's really up to Johnson as to whether or not he wants to put it on the House floor for a vote. And you just heard him clearly say there that he doesn't. He doesn't want to be jammed, as he put it, by the Senate. The question then becomes twofold. One, does this put these conversations about linking border security to aid for Ukraine and for Israel right back to square one? Remember, months ago, that's what Republicans said they wanted. Then there were those bipartisan negotiations in the Senate, the product of which Speaker Johnson rejected and said he wouldn't put that on the House floor for a vote either way. The second question becomes, what's the future for aid for Ukraine and Israel like with that bill that came out of the Senate? Speaker Johnson says the majority of Republicans in that chamber didn't support it, but 22 Republicans did support it in the Senate. In the House, the question then becomes, can House Democrats partner potentially with moderate Republicans and do a procedural move, what's known as a discharge petition, to try to force this bill onto the House floor and end run around the Speaker? That's very unlikely. Those moves are very rarely successful. But right now, it's something that House Democrats are certainly getting asked if they're open to. And Hakeem Jeffries, as late as yesterday, said that all legislative options, in his view, are on the table when it comes to trying to force a vote on that bill, Diane.
Meanwhile, Jay, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas could face a trial in the Senate. He was impeached by the House yesterday, and that came down to a single vote. How significant is that, and the timing of all of this?
Yeah, Republicans needed 214 votes to pass that. They got exactly 214. It was Steve Scalise, returning from cancer treatment, the #2 Republican, that ended up putting them over the goal line. Remember, that vote failed when 3 Republicans opposed it. Pretty dramatic fashion last week. It now triggers a trial in the Senate. Chuck Schumer, the top Democrat in that chamber, Democrats control that chamber, has...
No, we didn't give Israel $95 billion. We gave Israel around, I think, $18 billion. The $95 billion package is a total package that includes some help for the Palestinians as well, I believe, to the tune of the $8 billion part might be. Well, not only, sorry. Yeah, the $95 billion includes Taiwan, the $95 billion includes Ukraine, and it includes Israel.
Indicated that there will be a formal trial perhaps in that chamber. The Senate has a couple paths that they can take. They can do a formal trial on the Senate floor like we saw during the Trump impeachments. They can send this to a committee, a specialized committee that would in a sense carry out the trial, and then the Senate would vote on whether to acquit Mayorkas or to remove Mayorkas.
It hasn't passed the House
yet. The Senate can move pretty quickly to dismiss these charges, but you got to remember, Diane, we're in pretty uncharted legislative waters here because Mayorkas is only the second cabinet secretary in American history to be impeached, the first in nearly 150 years.
Now, Democrats, Jay, have one more seat in the House after winning back George Santos' seat in that special election in New York yesterday. So what does that mean for the balance of power in the House, especially when you look at how closely this measure over Mayorkas passed?
Well, it means Republicans have one less vote to lose on these crucial pieces of legislation, some of them controversial, that do lose Republican votes. Look no further, as you noted, than the Mayorkas impeachment vote, where Republicans last week, when Steve Scalise was absent, lost 3 of their own, and that, when you had one Democrat show up at the last minute from the hospital, doomed that resolution. It shows you just how slim the margin for error is when it comes to the House Republican Conference and having A, everybody present, and B, everybody voting for legislation that they know is not going to get any votes from Democrats. So when you have that one additional Democratic vote, it makes it all the more complex. Think about it this way. If this Mayorkas impeachment had happened after that special election in New York and after Tom Suozzi would be seated, it would not have passed, Diane.
All right, Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill. Thanks, Jay.
Hi, everyone. George.
No help for Palestinians. UNRWA delivering aid is prohibited, and if there's a ceasefire with Hamas still in power, there will be no aid delivered. It's a sleight of hand. Yeah, I think that the special House election in New York is a really, I guess, yet another terrifying way where we are just moving in that direction. Like anything and everything we can use in the Democratic Party to claim that, like, the people demand more concentration camps, that people demand more aggressive methods of dealing with migration, and that yes, immigration is legitimately a matter of national security, is one, terrifying for the future of the United States of America, okay, and two, shows me that Democrats want to lose in general, okay? Democrats want to lose in general. They want to lose with the Republicans. There's no way that this is bad politics and bad policy. It's bad policy because it's literally white nativist immigration strategies that legitimizes the psychotic right-wing framing that the Democrats have at least like aesthetically opposed for years and years and years, okay? And it's bad politics because you can never outflank the Republicans on this anyway. But let's say you do win. Let's say you do win on this issue. Let's say you are now the party of anti-immigration, right? Let's say the Democratic Party becomes tomorrow the party of anti-immigration, and all of the anti-immigrants are voting Democrat, okay? Is that a good thing? This is a question we must ask ourselves. Is this a good thing? And an identical parallel that I can present you is protecting trans people, okay? Republicans have been actively trying to claim that trans people existing in public is actually a genuine threat to women's lives and women's safety in general, because like trans women are somehow all sexual deviants, right? This is the narrative that they've tried to frame surrounding the trans issue as they've desperately tried to make this a wedge issue in the culture war. It has failed thus far. But imagine if it was getting more prominence in mainstream discourse, and then the Democrats decided, you know what, actually, we are the party that's going to kill trans people, not you. Would that be a good thing? Would this be overall a positive change? Yeah, you don't have to look any further than the Labor Party for an analog there anyway. It would not be a good thing. It would not be a good thing if the Democratic Party became the anti-immigration party and then ran on the anti-immigration agenda successfully and then started implementing anti-immigration protocols. More anti-immigration protocols than we have passed thus far. Okay? It sucks. Wouldn't it be better to just try and win? Winning doesn't do anything in this situation. That's what I'm trying to describe to you. The reason why you ostensibly vote for the Democratic Party is because they're supposed to be marginally better than the Republican Party. What does that mean? They're better than the Republican Party because they're not openly hostile towards immigrants. They're not openly hostile towards trans people. They're supposed to be pro-trans people, pro-gay people, pro-immigrant, right? All of these things. That's why you're supposed... Harm reduction only works if the Democratic Party is actually reducing harm. When the Democratic Party decides, no, we are the ones who are going to be doing the harm, then there is no harm reduction. Do you not understand that? There is no reason at that point to vote for the Democratic Party at all. I'm not arguing against you. I'm just trying to flesh out your argument. I have described my argument in very certain terms, time and time again, because that's what someone would say. I don't know what you mean, but I'm explaining to you what I'm talking about. There is no harm reduction if the Democratic Party adopts the position of the Republican Party on immigration, which is what they're doing. So even if it's because it's bad politics and bad policy, even if it was good politics, as in this worked and the Democrats became the anti-immigrant party, it would still be bad. It would be bad because then, okay, you're voting for the Democratic Party and they're anti-immigration. You're voting for the Republican Party and they're anti-immigration. So all you are getting is bad bills on immigration. What is the point of winning if you get nothing out of it? The notion, this is the reason why I think a lot of people in the United States of America especially do not understand this, is because they're so conditioned into thinking that politics is just pure team sport. Okay? I go in, I do my civic duty, I vote once every 4 years, and then I fuck off, and I never think about it ever again. And when my party's in charge, things are supposed to be better, right? At least my party won. 80% of Americans, according to the Pew Center studies, vote on party lines. They do not have any ideological underpinnings for why they vote for either party. They vote Democrat because their parents voted Democrat, or they vote Democrat because they were conditioned into voting Democrat somehow. They vote Republican because their parents were voting Republican. Only 20% of American voters actually vote for either party because they feel like there are concessions that they can extract from either party. Okay? That's crazy. That's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be 20-80 in the other direction, where 80% of the people are supposed to be voting for whatever party they're voting for because they believe that that party aligns with their values. I don't agree with you, Hasan. Okay, well, you don't have to agree with me, but it's just the simple truth. This further creates the narrative that neither party actually cares about anything, and there is a uniparty attitude. Okay? Anyway, this is terrifying. Leading into the migrant woes, Suozzi pays election year. Mr. Suozzi's 8-point win flipped one of the 5 House seats Democrats needed to retake the majority in November, giving the party a badly needed shot of optimism. Okay? But his campaign also provided something that may prove more valuable, a playbook for candidates across the country competing on turf where President Biden and his party remain deeply unpopular. First of all, I don't think President Biden and his party is deeply unpopular, specifically in this district. Okay? The strategy went something like this: challenge Republicans on issues they usually monopolize, like crime, taxes, and above all, immigration. This is the exact reason why New York became almost purple for like for a moment. Okay? Trying to outflank the Republicans on crime, taxes, and immigration is literally the worst strategy of all time. You are personally reaffirming the narrative that these are real problems, or even if they are problems, by the way, they're problems that only the Republican Party's strategies can solve. That is really stupid, okay? How do you message on a subject where 75% of Americans believe there's at least a serious problem at the border? Beautiful question. 75% of Americans would not believe that there is an issue at the border if the Democratic Party and the organs of propaganda that operate alongside the Democratic Party, the supposed liberal mainstream media, actually covered the issue with factually accurate information. This is identical to the issue of crime, retail theft, something that I have been absolutely daggered on time and time again, despite the fact that I was correct. Crime as a phenomena was manufactured. Crime is a constant, of course, especially in cities and whatnot, and it is a product of material conditions worsening. But if you ask the Democratic Party and the liberals, crime was happening because police were being defunded. That is right-wing framing. So the Democrats tried to outflank the Republicans on defunding the police and say, we are the party that wants to fund the police. In a country where 86% of the police vote Republican. It is an objectively idiotic way that the Democrats keep losing over and over and over again, and yet they still do it. They still do it because I suspect they want to lose. But at this point, it's like saying, go back in time and don't poison the well. If Dems change their tune right now, voters would think they're denying reality for how long? Eventually, the narrative would correct, but we're on a deadline here. That's so funny. You are missing the point that I'm making, okay? Even turning it around at this point is still good, okay? Because this is still a losing framing on the issue. You are never going to convince the Republicans, the Republican voters, and the reactionaries that the Democratic Party is the party of immigration. Even if you win, okay, and you do actually convince them, then all you're doing is passing right-wing issues anyway. All you're doing is passing bills that are right-wing anyway. But it's also idiotic. Agreed, it's good on the broader sense, but again, it's not the GOP. Independents think it's a problem. No, independents think it's a problem and will never be convinced that the Democratic Party will fix the problem. Independents have been captivated by right-wing framing pushed by liberal organs within the media. Okay? That's it. So work on issues that are strongest for you. Why are you caving to right-wing framing on immigration? Just hammer on the position that abortion was taken away from 50% of the population here in the United States of America by Republicans. Republicans are going after your civil liberties. There are ways to reframe the narrative. Republicans do it every day. They guide every single issue. They are the ones who run and dominate. They are the ones who run and dominate the conversation nonstop. The fact that we had any conversations about little trans girls participating in high school sports, even for a brief moment, even for more than 3 seconds, was a clear indication that this conversation is always, the media cycle is always dominated by right-wing framing on right-wing issues. And Democrats are always trying to play catch-up, okay? And if you do that, if you let them win on the messaging front, inevitably, people are going to believe that framing. People are going to start saying, well, everyone's saying it. Even the Democrats are saying it. But that's because it's easier for Republicans as they're doing it so from a position of power. That's not true. You're so wrong. The Republicans recognized that they had no power at the legislative body, at the federal level. So they, for the past 30 years, have very clearly used obstructionist policies at the legislative level, at the federal level, and then beefed up their incredibly gerrymandered state legislatures and filled the courts to the brim with Federalist Society judges all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States to basically get their wish at the state level, and then have that be tested in the courts and push for it at the federal level through the Supreme Court. What you're saying should be heard by leftists who say that abortion rights were taken away under Biden, so why should they vote for him again? That's part of the problem. An avoidable wrong place, wrong time situation when SCOTUS decided to overturn Roe. Hasanabi Productions posted your reaction to Two Man's death. I think it's tasteless, and you should probably tell them to delete it before your haters screenshot it and shit on you on Twitter again, thinking it's your channel and it's you uploading it to profit off of someone's death. Even people in the comments are telling them to delete it, and it's shameful how fast it was posted. Hasanabi Productions, if you don't take that video down, I'm going to do everything in my power to take your goddamn channel down. Okay? Holy shit, dude. Think for a second. You're so horny to get the fucking views. Okay? You're so horny to get the goddamn views. You don't realize that, like, every time I get actually canceled, your view counts are going to go down as well. Okay? When I get fucking really canceled one day and quit streaming entirely because of the dumb shit that you do like this from time to time, okay, then you're going to have no content to post, okay? Do you want that? Come on, man. Someone in the Discord must have direct access to him. Take this shit down. Too Mad died? Wait, really? No. Okay, good. There you go. That was quick. That was swift. What's wrong with it? I'm confused. Dude, what do you mean what's wrong with it? What do you mean what's wrong with it? What's wrong with it is that immediately it's just like, people are going to be like, oh, you're capitalizing on someone's death. Okay? Wait, at least wait a little bit. You know what I mean? Or frame it in a way that makes a little bit more sense. Or just don't post it entirely, obviously. Have we not learned from 2016 what happens when we abstain or vote third party? Increase the odds that Republicans are gaining office. The residents of Roe is a clear example. Yeah, it's really cute that you're saying that, because I don't think you understand, but like in 2016, I was telling people to go and fucking... The clip complex has to understand that your haters can't tell the difference between you and a fan channel and will think Hasan is the one capitalizing on it. It's insane. Yeah, it doesn't even matter. Some of them know that it's a clip complex, but they still fucking do it. I don't think it's a good look regardless. And the video has been taken down swiftly because he's in here, because he's always in here, because he's looking for anything to clip out. Anyway, all right. But yeah, overall, to that one chatter who was asking, in 2016, I was advocating to vote for Hillary Clinton because I saw how devastating that would be. And I was right. And in 2020, as you guys know, I worked with even the Democratic Party on special elections. Okay? As you guys saw. But ultimately, it's just, you know, at a certain point, you have to recognize that this is idiotic and bad. I always tell you to vote regardless, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that voting for the Democratic Party when they're trying to pull some like this is going to be good, because it's not going to be good. You know, if they push for this and win on this issue, and they actually push legislation that is right-wing, then there is no difference between the Republicans doing this and the Democrats doing it. There's no difference. Unless you just personally only vote for the Democratic Party because you want a Democrat to be in office so you feel like your team is winning, you know? Like, what's the difference here? What's the difference? If the Democratic Party tomorrow, in a hypothetical scenario that is not so hypothetical, decided that they are going to be the ones that are going to be anti-trans and push anti-trans bills. A lot of you liberals love talking about trans people, and you're like, oh, I guess you just don't care about trans people. I guess you don't care about immigrants. Remember how many liberals said that in the 2020 election? I guess you don't care about immigrants then, and that's why you want to vote Republican. Not voting is basically voting for the Republicans. Okay, now Democrats are like, we don't give a shit about immigrants. We want to kill them ourselves, And you're like, if you don't vote for the Democratic Party, then, well, then Republicans are going to win. Okay, what's the difference? What's the difference? There is no lesser evil between the two parties if the Democratic Party is also pushing for the same evil that the Republican Party is pushing for. Anyway, it's a very interesting lesson for the Democrats. You can escape your opponent's attacks on immigration by not only leaning into the issue, but doubling down on it, said Steve Israel, a former congressman. Wait, let me see. Edinger Mentum just responded. Oh, shit. Yes, you can call. Dems are pushing for like 5 crime bill equivalent policies, and Republicans want to do the same shit too. One's red, the other's blue, though. Yeah, it's just so... It's such a sad state of affairs. And if I pull myself out of this for a second and like make comparisons to what's going on in the UK, what's going on in other European countries, okay? What a lot of people don't understand is this is how fascism wins, okay? This is how fascism wins. Republicans are still worse by far on immigration, encouraging irresponsible voting. Pago, shut up. Shut up. No, Republicans are currently not still worse by far on immigration because, and here's why. Here's why they're not worse by far in immigration. Republicans just keep pushing the boundaries as Democrats normalize the prior election cycles' immigration issues and adopt the Republican framing. That's why Democrats are allowing Republicans to win. This is my point. How do you not see it? The bill that they're talking about on immigration literally has funds to complete Trump's border wall in it. This is the party that for 4 years said no border wall. This is the party that then turned around and actually used eminent domain to keep building Trump's border wall. Brandon did that. What are you saying? You have no real interest in fixing any of these issues at all. You just want the Democrats to win. That's it. And why? Why should they? Well, it doesn't matter. As it stands currently, you are so obsessed with foreign policy, you don't see the vast difference between the parties here on U.S. on domestic policy. I am a political commentator with now 10 years under his belt. Okay? I have covered many election cycles, and I am drawing conclusions off of the past election cycle. You guys started paying attention maybe last election cycle. Okay? And even though you started paying attention last election cycle, I've said nothing about foreign policy thus far so far, okay? American foreign policy is bipartisan. That's a given. It doesn't even matter. American domestic policy is supposed to not be so bipartisan. I'm telling you, every single thing that Joe Biden ran on as it pertains to immigration in 2020, he has now completely turned on and has adopted the right-wing framing on. Please. I know that your confidence is shook because you think I'm some tanky or some shit. Because some other goddamn CP defending ethics of pedophilia Andes out there have told you that I'm wrong. But I'm not wrong. Do your own reading and exercise critical thinking. You are blind to the reality. And no, I'm not even talking about Vosh here, okay? Destiny has done the same shit. And all of their goddamn orbiters. There's a reason why you can pull my commentary on Huffington Post or on the Young Turks from like 2016, 2015, and the issues are the same. My criticisms of the Democratic Party are the same. The only thing that has changed is how much the liberals have turned into the same exact MAGA Republicans, both on policy and also in the admiration that they demonstrate for the Democratic Party's president-elect, the Democratic Party's candidate. Think about it this way. Look at the way that they're treating Jon Stewart, who had the audacity to say both candidates are old. Obviously, Trump's worse, but goddamn, both candidates are old. Everyone lost their minds over it. Anyway, I'm going to call Edinger Mentum right now.